Hello, kia ora, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you for joining us for our weather update for Thursday, September 22nd. We're tracking high pressure moving into the Tasman Sea, and it will soon move over the South Island, while in the north, it's low pressure that's coming into the North Island. Also low pressure moving into eastern parts of Australia. But this is the main feature, the high pressure zone in the Tasman and now moving in and over the South Island. This low to the north slowly deepening. It's got air flows coming in from Fiji and Tonga, and it's moving straight down into the upper North Island. So that between that low pressure system and the high, we're going to see winds increasing, especially through Cook Strait, and we're also going to be seeing that rain sliding down the eastern side of the North Island, kind of trapped. So the totals are going to lift up. And in Australia, that low moving slowly along to the eastern coastline, also blocked by that high, which is also encouraging a nor'easter. So both the eastern side of Australia and the North Island of New Zealand have similar weather over the coming days. But the rain is the main feature for the North Island, and that's where we start the next 3 days ahead. Rainfall totals around about 60, 70 or 80 millimetres in this zone here in the pink. So that's all the way from East Cape down to central parts of Hawke's Bay. Outside of that, the rainfall totals aren't as great. And if you need to get a local update, go to ruralweather.co.nz. Notice how it really fades off as you go down to the South Island, the blue and the green there, just at the very bottom of the scale. Over in Australia, it's a similar story. The low moves out to the east. The rainfall totals, similar shading in that 60 to 80 millimetre zone, and most of that is around Coffs Harbour. Apologies for yesterday, I said Port Hedland instead of Port Macquarie. But yeah, the bulk of the rain between about Bundaberg and Brisbane down to about Sydney. Elsewhere, again, blue and green, bottom of the scale, just a few showers, nothing too much in that forecast. We've got a bit of wind for New Zealand, as I mentioned earlier, with that low coming in. So the low is parked up here, not much in the way of wind. This is 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday. The worst winds through Cook Strait, where you're seeing gusts around 100, 110 k's an hour. So severe gales coming through Cook Strait, brushing the Marlborough Sounds, brushing parts of Wellington, brushing the southern coastline of Taranaki. So places like Hawera, likely to be a bit windy, and down to about Wanganui. And then also through the mountains and ranges up to about the northern parts of Manawatu. So places like Palmerston North might have a few gusty winds coming through the Manawatu Gorge for you. Let's take a look at the forecast for lunchtime Friday. Low pressure, I should say, parked out here near Auckland and Taranaki, pretty weak at 10-14, so not very much in the way of low pressure. But between that little bit of sinking air pressure and the big strong high down here, that's why you've got those strong winds, what we call the squash zone, in between the two. And then the rain slides down the east coast, blocked by high pressure further out to sea, and that low's not going anywhere fast, so that rain starts to accumulate. And over in Australia, very similar setup. The low's fallen apart, but the rain sliding down the east coast blocked by high pressure, so it can't sort of move away very quickly, and that's another reason why you're seeing those rainfall totals lift up in the east. As we go into the weekend, Saturday looks like this. High pressure continues to hold itself over the South Island to some degree. The low in the north falling apart, now finally moving out to sea as the big eastern high, that one there, slowly moves further away. So the rain moves in towards the Chatham Islands. Conditions pretty settled around New Zealand on Saturday, other than that wet weather lining up there. And in Australia, a colder change comes into Tasmania and some coastal parts of Victoria, plus also right over on the other side, Western Australia. To Sunday now, and we've got a low pressure system here worth keeping an eye on. It's going to drive in some gale force winds around coastal parts of Australia. I'll show you a map in a moment for that one. In New Zealand, high pressure now parked out to the east. We've still got a few showers. That's a southeasterly flow there, so a little cooler with those showers coming through, but not quite as substantial as they've been. This wind map now, this is for Sunday night. So here is that low, just brushing Adelaide. Kangaroo Island, Adelaide, getting gale force winds coming through there. And in the other areas with orange from Broken Hill down to about Melbourne and parts of Hobart, just below, parts of Tasmania, just hovering below gale force. So blustery conditions, once again, typical spring weather, if you like. Now next week, high pressure is parked right over the Chatham Islands, very powerful high at 10:38. So that's a strong system. That's going to push in easterlies For the top of the country, maybe one or two little showers, nothing significant in there for our national day off, the day of mourning for the Queen. We've got blustery winds coming through, especially around Cook Strait, but really dry and settled for the South Island. You've got a really dry several days coming up for the lower half of the South Island. And over in Australia, that stormy system moves into Tasmania and Bass Strait. So Melbourne and Hobart are the two areas that will be windiest and wettest as we go to the start of next week. And our final map for Tuesday shows that system sort of unraveling, a colder southerly coming through for that southeastern corner and your next burst of rain, which is not connected, by the way, to La Nina, not really. There's a bit of a northerly flow coming down, but this is still weather coming out of the Indian Ocean, so not too surprising. And in New Zealand, we've got easterlies, a couple of showers up around Northland, northerlies coming down, bringing some rain to the west coast, but dry pretty much elsewhere and mild. Still mild in the New Zealand area. No sign at this stage, touch wood, of any big southerlies on the way to make life miserable for the newborn livestock and for us as well as people. That is all from me. Back again tomorrow, Friday, with our next update. We'll see you then.